This evening on Nova Legends podcast, I have my esteemed panel of the northern region basketball coaches, Northern Virginia basketball coaches. We got Sherman down there, Sherman Rivers from Patriot as well. But guys, it's been a while. Thanks for doing this.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Appreciate you having us.
Yep. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, Julian.
Yeah. So before we get started, I'd like to say a moment of silence for Cowboys fans, Coach Halston, and all the other fans out there. I mean, that game was rough, man. I have never seen a team just completely dominate on the home field like that. They just did not. They weren't ready to play.
Man.
Yeah. Anything to say for yourself, Coach Halston?
Yeah, my son had a basketball game today. I wasn't sure there was a football game on this afternoon.
Yeah.
Let me check my calendar.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, it's been a while. We've gone through. I mean, the season's flying by. I mean, I think in 6 weeks we'll be in district tournament. So it's been time for us to get back together and talk about what's going on. So why don't we go around and you guys can briefly update us on your team and let us know, how the team's been playing, whether it's been up to expectations, and maybe a little bit about some of your personnel. Why don't we start with Coach Bentley today? He's got his baby Barkley. This is a kid. It's a shame we didn't get to see more of him than this year because I really enjoy watching this kid play. He's got great hands, just really crafty player, and he's a great athlete. Seems like he plays hard. I think I've seen him twice. So, Coach Bentley, why don't you get us started and tell us about your team?
We've started off pretty well. I cannot never show the record. I think we lost 2 games, and we're just trying to take it one game at a time. We have Marshall on Tuesday, as long as it doesn't snow. But we've hitting our stride. I think as all you guys know, is when you're coaching this time of year, is where you want to be playing well. I think we're doing okay right now. We've got some good pieces. Of course, people finally figured out who this guy Carlton Young is. He's pretty good. I've heard different names from Baby Barkley to Rodney Rogers to you name it. There's so many different names out there, but I tell everybody that will listen, he's even a better kid off the court than he is on the court, and that's saying a lot. I mean, he's a great teammate. He's fit right into some of the things that we like to do, and he's taking over. So we're very excited about having him. But we got some other guys on the team, man, that have stepped up and have played their role, and are doing a good job for us. And I think the guys have bought into what it is going to take to try to continue to get some wins. So very excited about what the guys have been doing so far.
Coach Bentley, you got a post player, or maybe a fours that I think he's new this year. He had a great game yesterday. Who was that kid?
Yeah, it's Miles Hancock. He's doing a great job for us as well too. He's a battler down low, get you some rebounds, plays tough defense. He's our vocal guy on the team. He's doing well. So when guys focus in too much on Young, then there's still another guy down there as well that's just doing a great job as well too for us.
Well, Buck's son is a heck of a guard, and I hate to say this about any kid, but he plays just like I used to play. He's a better player than me, but I mean he's a ball hawk. He's very crafty. He's got a lot of poise. He's a tough little guy for his size as well. I think he's having a really good season. He's only a junior, right, Coach?
No, I wish he was, but he's a senior this year, and Buck tells me all the time he's my son because we play a lot alike. Like that's how I played in high school. I was just a defensive guy. Buck was a scorer. So Buck has been kind of pissed at his son that he doesn't score the ball like he used to. But now he understands that, hey, look, this is what my son does. And I think BJ, his defensive skills are second to none. He guards everyone full court pressure, gets his hands on a lot of balls, and he knows exactly where to be. He's one of the best defenders I've seen in a long time, and he's definitely bought into that role of being our leader. But defensively, I don't think there's anybody in our conference that's better than him defensively.
Yeah, he could pass the ball too. He had this beautiful pass yesterday.
Yeah.
The referee, he found a travel, which I didn't know what he was even
I know
talking
what play you're talking about. I know what play you're talking about.
I mean, those referees, they knew what they were doing. They're good refs.
Yeah.
They were making some calls yesterday, but I'm an old ref. I shouldn't be talking about it.
I got you.
So let me behave myself here. Let's go to Coach Halston. Coach, you've had I know you had an injury or two, and you had very tough schedule, but also off to a good start.
Yeah, thank you. We have had a really tough schedule and really happy with the schedule that we put together. We are 9-4 at this point. We dropped a couple of conference games, but we are, I think, 4-2 in our conference right now. Yeah, we did have an injury, had a couple injuries, a couple things went on, but I like the fight my guys had, even the games that we lost. I mean, we lost obviously to Coach Craig on here. We had my first ever, I don't know if he's had one, but a 4 double overtime game, which is really tough. And we've had a couple of one possession games that we had a shot at the end. So I think in our minds, over on Quandra Road, we feel like we've been through a lot of playoff games in January, like playoff style battles. I mean, it was a lot of important possessions. So, my team is still, I still feel like we're really young as far as having a lot of varsity experience. So halfway through, we were kids are still working hard. We've had some good wins over some really solid teams. Beat Fairfax last week, which is a tough game, and down in Charlottesville, we had a game against Western Albemarle, against Western Branch, which is a really tough opponent. So really like the way my guys are going. My guards are playing pretty well and getting going, and my bigs are really coming along on their own.
Hey, Coach, like last year, are your JV and freshman teams strong? Like last year, I believe they're undefeated, weren't they?
Well, not both of my freshman team was undefeated last year, but that doesn't happen all the time. That's we occasionally get really good classes. But no, my JV and freshmen are playing well. Yeah, they're both doing really well. They play hard. We get after it. We really believe that we see our future in those JV and freshman teams and players. So we only have a couple of underclassmen playing up on varsity. We have 2 sophomores on varsity. They're actually our 2 leading scorers, but after that, like everybody else is all sophomores in JV and all freshmen, 9th grade team. So yeah, we like what we're doing, like what the future looks for us.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Coach. It was great talking to you a few weeks ago as well. Coach Carlos, this year is a different year for you. Last year, there were so many games that you knew before the game. You were just trying to figure out how to keep the kids motivated. And then you were trying to play, you had to play 15 players. So as a coach, sometimes it was a strange kind of challenge last year. This year, you've got a solid team, but you got an inexperienced team. And so you got kids, the team is still gelling. Are you having a good time with the challenge of this new group of guys?
Yeah, so like I mean having a good time. I don't, I hate losing, so I don't want to say I'm having a good time. But I'm liking coaching these guys, trying to figure out a way to, and it's funny, like it's hard to motivate this group than it is any of the other groups I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, for whatever reason, these guys, they think, and not to say it like this, but they think they the ones that hung up the banners. So they walk around with that swag, but when they got to go show it on the court, they haven't been able to show it at a high level, at that level. But with that said, man, we got a whole new starting 5. So you're gonna win some games that you're supposed to win. You're gonna lose games that you're not supposed to win, or the games that you would like to be in. We haven't been able to close the gap on those victories yet. We have 5 losses on the season so far, all non-conference games, and hopefully we got one more non-conference game on Saturday versus Sherman. Hopefully we can at least get that victory. I would hope at Sherman's expense. But nah, man. Andy Ramirez, he's doing a great job. He's our leading scorer right now as this, the one guy we had 2 guys that got playing time last year. He's our leading scorer, and then Parker Cage and Phoenix Card are our top 3 leading scorers. So Phoenix Card is coming to his own a little bit. He didn't start at the beginning of the season, but probably after the Woodstock game, he has been starting and been playing very well.
One of the best passing teams. I mean, all 5 of your players pass the ball really well. They all see the floor really well. So I would think once the level effort is what you want, and you have talent, I would still think you guys could be very dangerous down the road.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to think so. I think that we're moving in the right direction. We just gotta figure out how to bring it every single day, every single practice, every single game. That's where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, you don't have the fabulous 5 behind you anymore. But I do like the way Andy Ramirez hits the floor for loose balls and takes charges. He's I'm glad they gave him a chance to play one more year because
me too. Who knows what our record would be if he wasn't playing.
Also, coach, was that Braylon Cage I saw on your
Yeah,
Instagram
Braylon
page
Tate.
today?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. He's at Bridgewater?
No, he's at Penn State something.
Okay. Oh,
Altoona. Penn
he's
State
getting some playing
Altoona.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 He started the last 3 games.
Okay.
So he's been doing well, averaging
Good.
about 12 points a game so far in his 3 starts.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Coach. Well, Coach Craig, I've seen Woodson play at least twice this year live, and I think I've seen some video. Definitely have size. Definitely have talent. The freshman point guard, incredibly talented kid. Obviously, when you have a freshman point guard, it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get used to the demands of that position and also the pressure of the games. But I think all in all, you guys have had a pretty solid start to your season as well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think we're kind of similar to I think in a kind of a similar spot to Coach Houston's team in that we've played a pretty difficult early season schedule. I mean, we're 9-5. All 5 losses we've had. I mean, they've been very competitive games down to the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, we're riding a little bit of a 2-game skid here. We lost to Fairfax Thursday night in a game we didn't play particularly well in the first half, and we got behind and chased the game all game long and just couldn't quite pull it out at the end. And then yesterday we played over at Coach Marshall's event over at Osborne and played a good Potomac team and felt like we had a lead late in the third quarter and we had a couple turnovers. They made a couple shots and their role players knocked down some big shots and we didn't make ours and end up losing another tough game there. But a lot of close games, a lot of playoff style games. I would agree with Coach House and we've been kind of in the same boat. A lot of playoff style, low scoring, defensive, physical games. Hopefully that will help us going down the line. I it's funny. We had a lot of people from the outside put a lot of expectations on us, I think, this year. And I still, I look at our roster sometimes and I realize, man, we're still like really kind of a young team. I'd say like 7 of our top like 9 guys are underclassmen. So even though they're talented guys, they are still kind of learning where to play and how to, these close games, every possession is really important. You can't take a play off. You can't, forget an assignment. You can't not dive on the floor for a loose ball. You can't bail out on a charge because those plays are magnified in tight, physical playoff style games. And so we've had, some learning experiences with that. And I think our consistency has not always been where it needs to be. But we're capable of on a given night, of playing really well. A lot of tough games to go. We're done with our non-district schedule now, so we got 8 games left in the regular season, all Patriot District games. Should be tough battles most of those nights. Looks like there's five really really good teams in our league, and you just have to bring it every night. And yeah, I mean the game with Coach House's team earlier this year down at their place, 4 overtimes. Never coached a 4 overtime game before. I've had 2 3 overtime games. This was our first 4 overtime game. Funny thing was, I turned to my assistant coach on the bench and I said, "What is this? The second overtime?" He said, "No, I think it's the third." And then he talked to our other assistant coach. And he's like, "No, Doug, it's our fourth. It's the fourth overtime." I had totally lost track because that game just seemed to keep going and going and going. I kind of lost track of what overtime we were in because it was just almost like every play you kind of got lost in the game. We played an NBA game that night, Coach House, and I was talking to a couple of our kids afterwards, and the next night we were watching a little bit of film, and I talked to a couple guys before the film session started. I said, "How do you guys feel?" Like we had one kid who played 43 minutes, and he said, oh, I'm not gonna lie to you, Coach. I'm pretty sore and I'm pretty tired tonight. And I said, "Well," I said, "you played an NBA game last night." He goes, "Man." He goes, "That's crazy." I said, "The difference is in the NBA, you guys would have been flying somewhere tonight and you would have been playing again tonight, another game back to back." And he
Yeah.
looked at me and said, "I got to get in better shape to play in the NBA." Coach. That's what,
Hey, Coach, can it be you have I believe the Donovan brothers? I
yeah,
think it's and I think Theo Burke. I'm friends with his dad, Sean.
yeah,
Great.
yeah,
I think the kid's going to be a really hard nosed player. Plays hard,
yeah,
makes good decisions. Can
yeah.
it be difficult coaching size? We don't get that. We don't get size anymore. And all of a sudden, South Lakes has got a bunch of size. You have a lot of size. Is it a different challenge when you do have
Um,
size like that?
I actually think sometimes for at the high school level, the big kids actually, I don't know how maybe Coach Bentley has some size. Maybe he could add shed some light on this. And Coach Houston, I think sometimes it's harder for the big kids at the high school level because they very rarely see kids their own size. they play against a lot of guys who are smaller than them. And I know one thing that at least I've noticed with our big guys over the years is like the bigger, taller guys hate when they got to play against smaller guys who are like up underneath them all the time and kind of up underneath their hands and up underneath their legs. And they always feel like they're stepping on top of people. And I think actually sometimes for the bigger kids, it's easier when they go to the college level because they're playing against guys their own size. And then it's a little bit easier. They don't have to navigate a lot of smaller bodies around them. Um, but yeah, I mean, it has its advantages. Obviously having size, but there's some, there's some tough things about it too. Finding a matchup, especially with two of them. One of them's always seems to be chasing a 6 foot guy on the perimeter. I think Coach Houston is about the only team that has like two big guys, and one of his big guys really is kind of a face the basket, can dribble like a guard and stuff like that. But like, there not very many teams play two big guys together anymore because number one, they don't have them. And number two, it's a guards game at the high school level. And so, there's some challenges with, having the two big guys on the floor together. And we split them up sometimes. We play them together. We're still trying to figure out our rotation, I think. But yeah, there's some challenges with it. But, they're good kids and they're working hard and trying to give us what they have. I think, we maybe our young guards don't always do the best job getting the ball into them sometimes. But, we're a bit of a work in progress still.
Yeah, I think South Lakes has had a little bit of that challenge too when they played Patriot, and Patriot shots well outside. You got big guys trying to chase guards around, so it could be an advantage, but sometimes
I think
yeah.
I think too, the other thing with it, honestly, is I think sometimes the officials struggle with big guys because we just don't see a lot of big guys at the public school, high school level. So sometimes the big guys, I think, sometimes get a little bit of the short end of the whistle. A small guy drives in there and falls down because he just runs into the bigger guy and they get the foul call, and the big guy goes strong to the rim and he gets hit 3 times, and the officials are like, "Well, just play through that." And I think there's all kinds of challenges. You just don't see a lot of like big 6'7", 6'8" kids at the public school level anymore. Just they're all recruited out early. So I don't know how everybody else feels about that. I know for us that's it's a little bit of a challenge, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's nice to have some size.
Yeah, it could be nice in the next level, at the tournament level and stuff. Coach Rivers. So I've seen Patriot play at least a few times this year, a couple times live and then a couple times on video. You guys have had some great wins. You had a win over South Lakes. Your schedule's been very tough to kind of balance out the fact that your district is way down this year. So I know it's tough for you to keep the kids probably flying high, even though you flew pretty high against Osborne Park. But anyway, I wanted to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about your team and what you think about them, and any surprises thus far this year.
I mean, you spoke about it. Our district obviously is down from what it's been in the past. So we have definitely tried to play a tougher non-district schedule probably than we have in the past. We just played Archbishop Carroll last night, who's a lot better with their new coach, Malcolm Battle. He brought over all those guys that was with them at Bard, where they won the DC. Didn't they win the DC AA championship last year?
Yeah.
So they had a kid who was their best player who's gone to being like their fourth like role player. So now all he does is just shoot threes. So that tells you how much better that they got in the process of that. We traveled down to 757 twice already this year and played a couple of games. Obviously, we talked about the South Lakes game, them coming in. We played against them. We've tried to, keep it a little bit tough. I would like that we have played better in all of those games, but, the learning process. I know that we brought back a lot of guys, but we lost 3 guys that really were the heart and soul of what we did as far as establishing culture and how we played. So some of our guys have been trying to find their way with that. On some nights they look really good, and some nights they look like that I'm speaking a different language. So, but to be complaining about a team that's sitting here at about 9-4 and has scored 100 points in 2 different games would be silly of me. So,
yeah. I definitely think this year, unlike last year, it is important for you to shoot well this year. I think last year you didn't really necessarily had to shoot well because, the point guard Nazir was such a dominant defensive player. and you got a lot of stuff off transition. Would you agree that it is more important for you guys to have a good shooting night this year?
I mean, it obviously helps for us to make shots, but we got a guy that can play inside, can do some stuff with Isaiah. That if we struggle with that, and Tay does an excellent job of getting downhill and getting to the basket, and we got three guys shooting over 80% from the line. So if we can attack and do those things, the jump shots obviously help, and I think that makes us extremely dangerous. But it's not an end all be all for us being successful.
Yeah, and it does seem like obviously you have Tay and you have Desmond and is a tremendous 3-year starter, but it seems like you have a lot of and obviously Isaiah, but you have a lot of balance to your team. It doesn't seem like there's a big difference between 4 and 10 with you guys. You can bring in a different look, and there's no drop off, no noticeable drop off.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we try to pride ourselves over the last few years. Obviously with the group we had the 2 seasons before, having 5 guys averaging double figures was shows some of the balance that we were able to have. Obviously we're a little, as far as the scoring, it's a little bit more top heavy, but we do have guys 4 through 10, some days 4 through 12 that can come in, contribute, score some points, play some defense. So I like our roster. I mean, we've played all 15 guys on our team in numerous games this season, and I can't really think of any team that I've ever seen that with. So,
yeah, it definitely seems like when you're trying to play Patriot, you got to kind of pick your poison because a lot of guys can beat you. I guess I wanted to start, and I don't mean this as a criticism because I'm a biggest fan of Northern Virginia basketball, but it does seem like we have struggled more out of conference in other parts of the state in other private schools this year. It seems like we've all lost games. I don't know if Coach Wakefield has, but everyone's lost games to teams out of the area this year. Do you think it's at all? It's just that's kind of luck of the draw. Do you think Northern Virginia maybe we're down a bit this year in terms of our overall talent level, or maybe it's just it's a wrong impression on my part?
I think it might be just wrong impression. I know that lost some, but I mean, you can't win all the games all the time. I know last year we played 4 7-5-7 teams, I want to say, throughout the season and beat all of them. That's not something you normally would see.
Right.
So it just the way it goes is as long as you win the ones at the end of the season, I think that's all that matters. And instead of trying to be impressive and make sure you win every game during the regular season.
But is that a notion that the Maryland teams or the DC teams or the downstate teams are strong or up this year? Or does anyone else have any thoughts that maybe about the relative strengths of the teams this year?
I think we're fine. I think we're going out and playing good teams.
Exactly.
I don't think that we're just like picking teams in another area that we can just go and beat. I mean, I think we're actually, scheduling on purpose teams that it's going to be a challenge that we know you're not going to just walk into and win. And sometimes you do win those games, but I mean, sometimes you don't. And I think playing them in December and January is the best case scenario to learn about your squad. That if you do see these teams again, in late February or March, you're kind of more battle tested. I think in the Maryland, DC, part of it, I mean, there's a lot more that goes into those guys moving around from school to school. I think, getting different players that they get than we're able to get. But I don't at all think that it's down. I mean, I've got a chance to watch. I mean, I saw most of the games at Osborne on NFHS yesterday, and there was a lot of really talented players out there on our side, and there was a lot of good talented players on the teams that we were playing against. I mean, I saw Hayfield and Woodson's game, on there, and I saw Wakefield, so all you guys play. And I mean, I thought you played good teams and you guys played well. So. Yeah, I think Julian, I don't know. I think that's a little off. I don't think that we're down playing.
I've been off
playing
before.
solid squads. Because a lot of the teams that we're playing and beating too, and even the ones we're losing to, I mean, it's not. I mean, they're good. They're good right down to the end battles. So
yeah.
I think too, like you don't see a lot of like crossover games, 7-5-7, 7-0-3 Maryland, whatever. I mean, for the most part, we're seeing those games in kind of showcase kind of events or deliberately scheduled games for like a Patriot or Hayfield to play somebody really good, to showcase their kids. It's not like we're just going over there and scheduling, middle of the road teams. I mean, we haven't played any of those teams this year. The farthest team we put away is Potomac, but I mean, I also, we've lost some of those games, but I mean, McLean also beat Princess Anne, who was in the state tournament last year, and McLean beat them in a holiday tournament. Everybody was shocked by that, and then lo and behold, McLean's a pretty good team. And then there's been some games that have gone the other way too. I know Alexandria City's beaten a couple DC teams. So there's been some the other ways. I just think that you're not seeing like our best teams play their middle of the road teams. It's our best against their best. And when two good teams play, sometimes, you can play well and not win. It just happens. I mean, you play other good teams, you're going to drop some, you just I think some of those games that are being scheduled, it seems like are more kind of the high profile event games.
Mhm.
And so you're seeing like, I mean, I don't think it's a crime that's South Lake's lost to Largo with Cam Ward, who's, like one of the top 30 juniors in the country.
They haven't played them yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't think that's like a bad loss for South Lakes. I mean, wasn't Largo like in the 3A state title game last year in Maryland? Like,
Right.
they're pretty good.
Have the best player in the DMV. So,
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty good. So, like, I don't think that's like a bad loss for South Lakes just because they dropped that game.
Yeah. Coach Bentley or Coach Carlos, you want to jump in here? Or?
Mute.
No, my fault. You guys said it all. I mean, you got to challenge yourself. You also have to do what's best for your team. You know what I mean? Every year is different. Like for us this year, I knew what we was having coming in. I knew what I needed to do for my team. So we went away and went to Charlotte, North Carolina. And it wasn't necessarily for who we're going to play, who we're going to beat. I knew nothing about the team. I did it for the camaraderie of my team. I needed to build my team, and not only my team, but my parents. Like I told my parents at the beginning of the year that in all the years we've had success is because we've had good parents as well too. So we wanted to go out of town and get the parents out of town as well too, to introduce themselves to each other. And so we can come back with a bond, not only with just the players, but also the parents as well too. So I think everybody does things differently. And you have to, worry about your team, and worry about what you're doing and stop worrying about what everybody else is saying. Why are you playing these guys? Why are you playing that? Well, you have to do what's best for your team so you're ready in February.
Yeah. Coach Carlos, do you have any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Nah, I mean, I honestly say I know for us, I always try to play the best teams that I possibly could play, just so that for one, whether we win or lose, we know where we are, where we stand as a team and then as individual basketball players. So for me, it's always, it's a lesson in all of that. And if we show improve, then we're good. If we don't, we still got work to do. So I mean, that's the way I look at it. And you take into account for me and I hate when I talk about my district because I always feel like I'm putting them down on this show, and it's not the case. But our district isn't as strong as would you like it to be. So I have to, the 8 games that I get out of conference, it got to be tough so that we can see that playoff atmosphere that Woodson and WaPo gets on a nightly basis. So I got to schedule these type of games in order for us so our kids can try to rise up to the challenge on games that they're not supposed to win.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree with Lowe's. I know Doug said earlier, you play those type of playoff games. They're not those high scoring type of games. I mean, I know that our South Lakes game was up there, but like I said, it was two teams that were playing at a high level at night. But I mean, you think about when Doug talking about his low scoring game that we played Lowson in the state championship game, those games of 50s and 40s. You got to get used to being able to play in that type of atmosphere, that type of tough teams. Now, I like just to be able to travel with our guys and have to put them on a bus. So you simulate that sort of situation playing in the tournament and having to travel down to a team and playing different refs and seeing different types of way people call the game. All that stuff is important. And I said before the season, I have to keep reminding myself that I don't care if we lose 4 or 5 to 6 games as long as we win the last one. But when you're in the midst of it and you lose a game, you feel like you want to throw something. So it's just something that you got to think about. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
Man, we played so bad yesterday. I wanted to throw the whole team away, but then I woke up today. I was like, man, it's not as bad as I say it is, because I look around, Northern Virginia, and it's like we still have a chance. So
right, exactly.
Hey, Coach Carlos, would that team had given you a game last year? What kind of matchup would that have been with your last year's team?
We would have won by 20.
You think so? Yeah.
They're not. Never mind.
Yeah. Right.
I can say it since Lowstone once said they would have beat them. They not that nice, and I've seen them enough that if that team that they had last year would have played them, they definitely would have won by 15, 20 points.
It was Gwynn Park, right? So
Yeah, we spotted them 17 points.
Yeah, it's always tough when you.
But they did a good job, man. I mean, they were well prepared. Ty Bevins was really good. You know, you can see why he's going to GW. Like, he's a very good basketball player. And then they got a little guard that reminds me of Phoenix. He's a senior version of Phoenix, and he held it down for them. So I mean, they're a solid team for sure. And you know, I think it's gonna be what Largo and them
for the state.
Yeah.
I
mean, having played against Los's team earlier this year, I think Los is just his team seems like it's a little bit kind of like our team, or there's some ups and downs because he's got some young guys playing in key spots for the first time, and there's going to be some variance with your players when you're playing sophomores and juniors, and for the first time they've really got the ball in their hands for the first. There's going to be some 4-minute stretches where you're like, what am I even watching here? And then there's going to be 4-minute stretches of brilliance. I mean, I've watched this team play several times, and we played against them. I mean, that's just kind of what I see. They're just like last year, they were just so consistent, right? Like they had seniors who had played and been in every big spot, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I felt like 2 of the 5 at least are always going to be hot. So you always had, you know, in so many different ways they can get you. Well, guys, how about the new rules of fouls? How have you guys adjusted to that as a fan? You know, especially when a game is a blowout or it's not the kind of game you really want to be at. I went to a couple of Riverside games out here. It's kind of nice because the games don't drag on. But as a coach, have you guys enjoyed the new fouls rule and that we reset every quarter and then you just shoot 2 shots instead of 1 and 1?
I mean, I've been good with it.
Yeah, I've been really.
I haven't had any issues with it. I don't think it's had any negative effect on it. I actually think that it's had a positive effect. It like you said, it's going into the 1 and 1 and having it be for like the rest of the half up to 2 fouls. I hope they don't switch it back. You know, this is the one time they made a decision that made sense, and hopefully they realize that.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't ask us either, and
they definitely didn't ask us.
No, they didn't. Like I didn't even know it was a possibility.
Yeah, just like the 4 points. I think that affects more than anything the 4 spots on the floor. Based on their bounds, based on their bounds, it certainly is affecting like out of bounds plays and how far you are away from the basket and certain things you can't do. But I think the games are going faster. I mean, except for Doug and I's game that ended at 10:45. And every other game I think has gone much faster because, like Sherman said, like certainly you used to be a minute and a half left in the first quarter, you're in the 1 and 1. You now know the entire second quarter you're shooting 1 and 1 and 2. And so the reset, I mean, there's been a number of games like my staff, we talked about, there's been a number of games we never even made it to the double bonus in any one quarter. I mean, we're shooting because you're shooting fouls, but yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I always find it interesting that at the beginning of a game, they'll call it so tight, and as soon as they get to that 5th foul, they stop blowing that whistle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good though. It's been good.
Yeah, I think they'll keep it up. Well, did you guys see Spencer Nusbaum's article in the Washington Post this week? I know we're not going to have any argument about this, about the shot clock, and Virginia is one of the last holdouts. Did you guys think it's a development issue that kids' development's being hurt by it at all? I mean, obviously, it's going to happen. I think we all agree that they need a shot clock. But do you think the kids are being held back by us not having a shot clock?
Absolutely. I just don't see the reasoning to not have it at this point. If we're talking about trying to, teach kids and get them ready for the next level that are going to have the opportunity to do so. I just playing in events where they do have it, it just makes the game completely different. Now you can't just hold the ball for 2 to 3 minutes at a time. One of the games we played this year against a very good team, they started holding the ball at the 7-minute mark of the 4th quarter. And I don't have any respect for that. So shot clock takes away all that nonsense. So I think it just makes the game better.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in here? Yeah. I think it's probably one we all agree on, huh?
I don't
Yeah.
actually agree. I don't feel it nearly as strong as everybody else does. But because I think that high school basketball in Virginia has been played for like 65 and 70 years. And Julian, you've done a bunch of Nova Legend stuff with people, and they didn't complain that the game was poor in the 1978, state tournament game or the 1981 state championship game because we didn't have a shot clock. Nor are we also complaining about how many freshmen are starting freshman college after coming out of our area, and their number one complaint is I can't play because I didn't know how to handle the shot clock. A lot of us on here played college ball after coming out of high school without a shot clock, and we adjusted, fairly well. I like the idea of playing to the rules. The rules say we don't have it. I didn't know about the 7-minute thing. Like at the 7-minute mark, holding the ball, that's tough. But I actually haven't seen, I've seen on video where somebody just held the ball and just stood there in like Louisiana or some other. I haven't in person seen that before. I think that we teach our kids how to play. And I think if you want to speed somebody up, you can speed them up. If you want to get them into the 2-shot foul, the one thing I noticed about the 2-shot foul is if you can't shoot, it just highlights the fact that you can't shoot. Bad shooters aren't all of a sudden making more free throws because they're going to the line twice. So when it comes into play, which I don't think is going to come into play for a long time. I read the article. I think it's going to be a long time. I mean, it was, 4 or 5 years ago, they did the survey. It was like 50%. And most of it was because of logistics of the, the ability to have it in some of the schools. I was in Charlottesville and talking to some of the schools down there. They're not putting it in. They're just talking about it. We don't have it to put in. So I think I think that we're arguing about something that's probably not going to happen for a long time, in my opinion.
What do you mean they don't have it to put in? The money?
This is what some schools are saying. Like if they have to choose a lot of things that they need to implement into their building, and the physical building, they're saying that putting the shot clock, getting the lights, and getting somebody to run that is something that is not a main priority for them. And so when we did our survey, it was all around the whole state of Virginia. You had people from Roanoke, you had people from Gate City, you had people from Northern Virginia, Charlottesville, everybody. And if it came out to 50%, and that most of the people are saying it's a logistics issue, I don't see how that's going to change in 3 years when we do a new survey.
I mean,
Well, I think
you may have a point.
I think two things can be true at one time. Do I think it really impacts our kids that much? Not really, because I mean, how many games do you watch where possessions are longer than 30 seconds anyway? I mean, really, actually, and I've said this for years, I think it's harder to hold the ball than it is to shoot it quick. Like getting kids to hold the ball is not easy to do. I mean, trust me, we've tried it sometimes and it doesn't work that well. But I think it can also be true that I would like to see a shot clock because I think when it really comes into play is at the end of games, fourth quarter, one team has a 5-point lead and they decide to just take the air out of the ball for 5 minutes, and have 2.5 minutes. Hey, listen, I've done it. I mean, because if the rules are what they are, and I got a team that can shoot free throws well, why wouldn't I hold the ball, and try to win the game that way? I don't particularly like doing it. And so that's where I think, a shot clock would really would really impact the game greatly is those end of games, end of quarter situations where you can't, hold the ball for a minute at the end of the second quarter before halftime. You have to release the ball. But I don't think like the vast majority of high school games are not really all that impacted by a shot clock, I don't think. Because I think possessions at the high school level are, for the most part, in most games that I watch, 15 seconds maybe. I mean, teams don't really, it's hard to hold the ball. That's what I think.
I haven't played in the gym where they use the side panels for the score and the individual players score and the individual players fouls and all the timeout. And I actually, to the point that I reached out to a bunch of DSAs about it, like what we used to have a guy that did ours at our gym. It certainly brightens the gym up, of course. And of course, as a coach, and you look up and you see a dude in the other team has 22 points, it's pretty good. Nobody, and so the referees aren't being not being required to come in there and do that. So like we can't even get anybody to do the side panel things. I mean, to think that we're going to get the shot clock.
You got to request it though.
Right?
Once you request it, they do it. You got to request it.
Well, I've been at a lot of schools this year, and I think I've seen the sides ones used twice. And I think we've had it once at our school. And I was at Fairfax last week, and they didn't have it.
I've been here 8 years, and we've used ours once.
Hey,
Yeah, that's crazy.
At Hayfield, we request ours.
I mean, I would love it.
Request a person to do
said
it.
something about it, but it's the same thing. And then I just end up thinking like they take enough time trying to just get the team fouls up there. I don't even care. So it's just one of those things. I don't know. I'm
good for y'all. They requested though. That we requested. So
I used to never have to request it, and we had it every game. Every game. I mean, it's such a big different feel in the gym when all that stuff is up there. I mean, it's just I think it really looks nice. And there's so many schools that have this, and they don't even have it up. And then I realized, they don't have anybody to work it. So like we're complaining about hoping they get a shot clock operator too. I mean, I don't know.
But the shot clock, my thing is the shot clock operator could be your freshman coach. Like that's not hard to do. You can have a volunteer to do it. Everybody's making excuses for it not to happen. Instead of just doing it and getting it done.
Lucky for y'all that y'all haven't played teams that try to take their out the ball that much. I've seen it way too many times where I can't stand it. And it's not even like we have a lead sort of thing. It's like we just don't want them to have the ball sort of thing. And
what's the score at the 7-minute mark when that happened? What's the score?
I mean, it was our first game of the season. So it was still in the balance. You know, we're talking about a team that was a state champ last year, number 1 team in 5A. They started holding the ball 7 minutes to go. And I just don't think that's real basketball. I just don't. I have a hard time. But I get the rules of the rules, so I can't be mad. You got good guards, and you can go in and drive back out and hold the ball for 2 minutes at a time because you can break counts. Good for you. But I just don't like it. So.
I do think it's nice to be in line with other jurisdictions. Like, soccer has the problem in that Virginia is one of the only jurisdictions that plays in the spring for soccer. And it's just, there's a lot of reasons for that. But, when you're doing something, everyone else is doing something different. It's just you're just kind of out of alignment. It's a little, a little frustrating, but well, let's get to some of the action, some of the districts. Why don't we start with the national? I saw Edison play yesterday online. That was the first time I saw them play. Had a pretty comprehensive loss to Wakefield, and Edison has some talent. They got Saunders back from last year. They got Teddy. I forgot Teddy's last name, back from last year. So Teddy Morgan back from last year. So definitely has some talent, and the record was good. They've only I think they only lost 2 or 3 games coming in. Coach Bentley put it on them, but so so I know that Edison's strong, and I know obviously Hayfield's strong. What does it look like so far in the national, Coach Carlos?
Can I say this first, Los, before you start talking about that? I know that Trey over there mad as I don't know what that point guard ain't there. I saw him play yesterday.
Oh, the guy from Champ?
Listen, he is the truth. And however he got from Alexandria to Loudoun is beyond me, but he is something else. But go ahead. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to play Edison last week, and then, with that whole rain thing, we didn't get a chance to play, so we haven't seen them yet, even though I've watched tons of film on them, and then I watched them versus, I watched them on NFHS versus Bentley and them. They're, Teddy, they're going to go as far as Teddy Morgan can take them. And, if he's having an off night, they're able to get beat. And so hopefully we got 2 games versus them, possibly 3. And hopefully we get all 3 of those victories. But so, I like them. TJ has been playing very well. I think I said it in the preseason too. I think they were like one of the top 3-4 teams. And right now still holding true to that. They actually took Edison to OT over at TJ, and it was a good game. And TJ's they do what they do. They muck the game up a little bit and they execute on the offensive side. And so and then Annandale got a kid named J.R. Nelson that's pretty good, senior guard forward-ish type player. He's averaging about 22 points a game for them. So Annandale's in the mix of that. And I mean, to me, that's like the top teams.
Mount Vernon's had some decent results
I
too,
forgot
right?
about Mount Vernon. Yeah, Mount Vernon. So Mount Vernon went from they only won one game last year, and I think they've won 8 so far this year. So definitely an increase on what they've been doing. What's my man? What's the coach name? Drew Miller.
Drew Miller. Hey, Dave, back up a little bit, Dave.
I'm just intently listening. Yeah, I'm intently listening. Played them earlier.
Drew been doing a decent job trying to get those guys to play the right way. They got a guard named Genesis that's doing pretty well for them, man. Another guard, number 0. His last name's Poindexter. I don't know his first name, but during the game they were saying Poindexter the whole time. I was like, yo, who's this kid? But yeah, he's all right too. And then they got a big kid that's pretty athletic. So those are the top guys. I forgot about Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else got comments about the National District? Anyone's played? I know Coach Bentley. I know you're probably pretty pleased about how well the game went yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Trey does a good job with his guys. I mean, with all his film and stuff, you get to watch things. You just be able to take away things. And with him having a great year that he had last year and returning a lot of guys back, people got a chance to see his guys more. So you can, try to figure out taking things away. But they're gonna be fine. It's just that was one game. He'll get back to the drawing board and keep it moving.
Anyone else play national teams and have opinion of any of the players or teams?
We played Mount Vernon earlier in the year.
How was that?
Well, I mentioned in our earlier podcast that I thought that they would be where somebody said they'd be better, and I didn't think it would be that much of a challenge to do that. So no, it was good. We got out of there. We got out of there pretty good. Clock ran for a little bit, so yeah, it was a good game.
I think we played both Edison and Hayfield. I think Carlos's team is the best team in that league. Although I do think Jefferson can make the game ugly on you, and they got a big kid that's a nice player, and again he's 6'7", 6'8". Edison, I think their biggest challenge is they just don't have a lot of scoring options. I don't know how Tony feels about that after playing them yesterday. We played them early in the year. We really felt like after Teddy, Saunders can score a little bit. They kind of search for offense after that. Now they've seems like they have a couple young guys they're trying to work in, and maybe they think they can be guys. But I think their biggest thing is if Saunders and Teddy both aren't scoring, they have a hard time manufacturing points. That was our impression of him. They're still a solid team because Teddy is one of the better scorers in the area. I think he's one of the more talented guys putting the ball in the basket in the area. But I'm not sure after those two guys. I don't know if they have a steady third, fourth guy that can on a given night give you 15 points. I don't know.
Last year they had 6 players in that team that could score on you. The guy off the bench could really shoot it. I forgot his name. But
I've seen Jefferson a couple of times. I think they're kind of scary because it seems like all their games are kind of down to 2 possession games. Sometimes somewhere late in the fourth, and then a random dude's gonna hit a 3. I think and the kid in the middle is really long. Yeah, I think that Mark does a really good job with them.
Yeah, he got 3 starters back from last year. I mean, the big kid was a first team all district player if I remember correctly. Los, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
The Patriot kid, the kind of 6'2", kind of a wider body kid on the wing is a pretty nice player. And then he's got the Asian kid Wang, the really athletic kid who plays like the 3 for them.
Yeah, I mean, number 22.
Yeah, he's a good athlete and can do some things. And then his guards are always like steady guys that seem to get them into their offense and can make an open 3 and do some stuff. So like I think they're a good team. They're a solid team.
Yeah.
Listen, when I was in the National District, our biggest rival was like Edison, and we used to go at it. Like I never worried about Edison, never worried about Mount Vernon, none of those up and down teams. I always worried about Jefferson. Mark does a great job over there, man. So y'all good luck with coaching against Mark, because I'm telling you right now, he's gonna figure out a way down the stretch. So good luck with that.
Yeah. Hey, trust me, yeah. I've watched a lot of film on them, and it's more than I can say that I've watched on them in the past few years.
Yeah. So, well, let's stick in the Occoquan and go to the other district, the Patriot, in which I think we all can agree it's a pretty strong district this year. Other Alexandria City. I was going to go over to that game yesterday. I didn't make it over, but it seems like they played a pretty strong game against John Marshall, one of the top teams in the country, And I understand they played South Lakes pretty tough with injuries. So I think Alexander City is probably one of the best teams in the state. But the whole district, probably other than maybe Robinson and Lake Braddock, every team's had their moments this year. Anybody want? You want to, Coach Craig? You want to start since we're talking about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I think Alexandria City has two very good guards, Kai Robinson and Darius Bivens. Those kids are very, very good. They're very poised, um, and they don't make a lot of mistakes, particularly in big spots of the game. That was kind of my read on them. I don't think they seem like they just win a lot of close games. It seems like they play a lot of close games. They don't really. It doesn't seem like they're blowing anybody off the floor. But it seems like if it comes down to the last 3-4 minutes and it's a close game, those two guys are going to have the ball in their hands, and they're 9 times out of 10 going to make the right play. And when you have two guards like that can kind of control the pace and the tempo of the game, and both can score, that's a pretty difficult, because you can't really double two guys. It's hard to double two guys, and they're good players, and the rest of their guys kind of play their roles. They're physical, they're athletic. They got a couple guys who make wide open threes if you leave them. I mean, they're a good team. I don't think they're like an overwhelming team, but they're a good team, and they don't beat themselves. I think Fairfax is very senior laden, physical team, good size. They switch a lot. They kind of muck up the game defensively. They got a lot of like 6'1" to 6'3" kind of guys. Coach Houston's team is I think is super talented. Those two sophomores are really, really good. And then he's got seniors, the Harrigan, not the Harrigan, that's the kid who killed us last year. The shooter is having a really good year. The name is, I'm drawing a blank on, right? Colligan. The Colligan kid is shooting the hell out of the ball this year. And then he's got his usual assortment of 6'5", 6'6" big kids that rebound and are physical around the basket. And then he's got BJ Necroma and the Ofori kid on the wing, who are really good defensively. They're a very good team too. South County, I think they were struggling a little bit earlier. It seems like they're kind of we have them Tuesday. That's the only team we haven't played in our district yet. But they seem like they struggled a little bit early, maybe trying to find their identity. I know he's playing a lot of young kids, but they seem like they're starting to come on. I know that they had AC in an even game in the last minute last week. So they're good. And then I think Lake Braddock and Robinson and Jesus, Lake Braddock and
West Springfield.
West Springfield. I think those three teams are still trying to figure it out a little bit. But I'm sure the second time through the district, those games will be tougher. They always are.
Yeah.
Doug's always really sharp on our league. That's why I let him go first. He does a good job of knowing everybody there. I mean, of course, he keeps himself out. His team is solid. We talked about him earlier with his bigs, and his freshman guard is really dynamic as well. So I think we talked in the preseason about like how many of the young kids, in the league were going to be really good and impactful. And, his guy, certainly with the ball in his hand late, he's kind of very similar to Bivens. It's hard to get the ball out of his hands. And then, size of those guys. But I think his kid that has come along, I think Noah Limbongo or something like that. I think he's come along for him and is, really a steady hand there. Does a little bit of everything, passes it, rebounds, and scores. So I think our league is really good with, I think, Alexandria City right now. They haven't lost first time through. We were a little down when we played them. I'm anxious to when we play them again. I like their guards as well. I like our guards also, and we weren't able to kind of match up, against them that way in a one possession game. But I think it's going to be all of us down to the end, always right down to the end. So it's another good league to be a part of.
I need to see that Chris and Darius matchup. I need to see that. I tuned into that game, looking forward to see, and I saw Chris was in dress clothes. Man, I'm not dress clothes, but in the sweatsuit, I was kind of blown. Yeah. And shit, Westport almost still won.
I interviewed a kid from McLean last week, Cap Eaton. He's the guy who scored the half court shot against Yorktown. I asked him, how were they able to beat Fairfax by 8 and by 26? That was a result. Didn't make a lot of sense when you look at the different scores of the teams. and he said we just match up really well with them, and so that was that those are two games I didn't really didn't understand. Are there any other sleeper players in the league that might be on teams not as strong but having really good seasons?
Hey, Julian, I think it's interesting. McLean beat Fairfax twice this year and once last year too. It just seems to be a matchup for whatever reason. Whatever they do seems to just frustrate Fairfax. And there is always matchups like that are interesting. I think Coach Houston and us. I think for whatever reason, no matter when we hook up, they could be really good. We could be down. We could be really good. They could be down. The games are just tight, and we just seem to like play tight games with each other. And sometimes certain matchups certain teams just kind of play well against each other. But to answer your question, somebody in our league who I think is an under the radar player who I think is pretty good, who people don't talk about a lot. But I tell you what, Jeremiah Hightower at West Springfield makes them a completely different team. When he plays, they're a lot more. Now he's been hurt almost the whole year. I think he's only played in 2 or 3 games, but it seems like he gives them some sort of a presence in the middle. And he's not the biggest post player in the world. He's only about 6'1", but he's kind of wide. He's kind of strong. He's got good hands. They seem to be a much more complete team when he plays. I think they struggle a lot defensively without him. For whatever reason, his presence makes them a lot better. I think he's a really good player on a team that maybe a lot of people don't see. And I think, I think over at I think Robinson has a couple of kids that can be scary on a given night because they can shoot the ball. The kid, the tall guard, who's a sophomore. The name is escaping me right now, but he's a really nice player. And then they have a tall kid, about 6'5" kid that can handle the ball and do some stuff. Who's a junior, who's got some ability. They shoot the ball well, so teams like that are always kind of scary if you get them in the tournament because they could have a night where they're making shots and you totally have your hands full with them. I don't know how Coach Houston feels, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we play Robinson Tuesday, so they're the only team that we haven't seen, but I watched them play. Actually, I think they lost to West Springfield with Hightower playing a couple of nights ago. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the sleeper guys are we have some good players on some good teams that are like the 4th and 5th guy. So like the kid for Doug, I think is a sleeper guy that a lot of people aren't talking about. And then I think I have a couple guys that are pretty good as well. So yeah, I mean, I think our top 4 or 5. He said it earlier. I think we got about good 5. I just actually got the brackets today. I'm interested to hear how everybody else is doing their tournament because all 8 teams don't get in, and we're only taking 6 out of our league, and I think you guys are taking 6. So it's like the top 4 or the bottom 4 have to play into a playing game. Maybe I don't know if everybody knew that, but there's like a playing game. So I think for us, it's going to be a challenge. Whoever that 5, 6, 7, that's going to be tough.
So everyone doesn't qualify for the district tournament?
For the regional
tournament. Okay.
Tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Everyone get in. That's a little bit ridiculous in terms of everyone gets a trophy. Anyone else want to talk about any of the Patriot
I like
players?
from the Fairfax. I saw them play. I saw them play versus the Cam football basketball guy. I feel like he's having a solid season for them. That I don't think nobody's ever mentioned Cam's name before on any of these podcasts. I think he's doing pretty good.
Cam Love.
Yeah.
I mean, he was second team all district last year. I don't know if he's like.
I'm just saying, like, I've never heard no one say anything about Cam. Everybody always talked about our guy the past few years.
Yeah.
So like, and the Peters kid, no one's ever said anything about Cam. And I feel like he's having a very good senior season. And yeah, yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I'll bring him up.
So, well, let's move to the Liberty District. Liberty District, it's off to an incredibly exciting start. Tony's Coach Bentley's had a very good start. He's won all his games, but underneath him, it is just lunacy. Bobby went in there and beat Yorktown in the last second shot on Friday, and that was Bobby's Coach Coach Dobson's had some nice results this year with the rebuilding team, but that was a really nice one. Huge rivalry. on that. And then Yorktown also lost, as we know, to a half court shot to McLean. McLean lost to Langley. Langley, I mean, just like last year, Langley's been horrible this year. They have not been good. It was the same thing last year. They started out really slow. So maybe this is the beginning of when they turn their season around. But Coach Bentley, you're there in the ground floor. What are you seeing in the Concorde?
And the Liberty?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now it is night in, night out. It's anybody's league. Like I said when we first had our show, that it's still Marshall's league until the end of it. And so everybody's gunning for Marshall. So Marshall's going to get everybody's best game night in and night out. Like you said, I haven't seen Langley yet, but their record hadn't showed it. But they had a big win the other night that could propel those guys to get going. I think McLean is really good. To me, I think like our sleeper team in the league is Yorktown. Like I think Yorktown is really good. They've got size across the board. Joe's got them playing really well. But those two games right there, man, could really mess them up. I hate to say that, but the half-court shot and then losing the W, you either go, one or the other way after that. You got to figure that out. So that was kind of, disheartening for those guys. But
they've lost 4 overtime games this year.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, plays mentally on you. You can have all the rah-rah speeches, man, but those kids are thinking about that stuff. It's tough, so hopefully they bounce back or whatever. But night in and night out, our district is really good. I haven't faced Marshall or Langley yet, but the teams that we faced are really good. I mean, even the last place team, which is Herndon, Coach Q does a great job out there. I mean, he's so far the only one that's kind of held Carlton in check. But even though when things get going like that, we're not so much worried about stats and numbers. We just want to get that letter at the end of each game, which is a W. So, but any given night, man, it's some good basketball, good players, and great coaches in the Liberty District.
Yeah, Herndon, Coach Bentley, they led Middletown from Maryland, who's still undefeated, led them by 13 in the fourth quarter, ended up losing in overtime. So, Herndon, that team, I saw them play against Yorktown. That is a really good team. Well, a really solid team. I don't want to say overstate it. And then Marshall, they're just not consistently making 3-pointers this year. And so they're having a harder time scoring this year. I think the team they still play great defense. Obviously Jerry does a good job, but they have not been consistent on the 3-pointers. And they against McLean, they just couldn't score. And McLean led from start to finish. Again, I thought Wakefield has 10, 11 players, lots of guards that can shoot and pressure. They got a little white kid. Sorry for referring that way. Stocky kid that can shoot the 3-pointer. You got another kid, white kid, bigger kid, decent inside. Just a deep team. And got guys, people are going to be surprised these kids can come off the bench and score. So I think Wakefield's got more than Coach Bentley is probably letting us hear about right now.
No, but I'm just letting you guys continue reading newspapers and Carlton Young. And because Carlton Young is the type of player, there is no one in the region can stop him one-on-one, and that's not being brash. That kid is that good. And I think because he's not a kid from around here, he moved in here, we don't know who he is and all that stuff, but they're in a player. I mean, they're in a coach or a team that wouldn't love to have that kid. Yeah. I got a compliment from Bobby Dobson the other day. Bobby don't give out too many compliments. He said, that's the best kid I've seen with the ball and without the ball. And that says a lot about what that kid can do. Doesn't worry about scoring. If he's not scoring, he's going to rebound. Last night against Edison, it was not a key play, but we're up by like 15, 16. As he gets a steal, he dives on the floor for a loose ball, and gets it out so we can start a fast break. Like you just don't see that with your superstar type players. All they want to do is score. But this kid's so much more than, just trying to score the ball. But I try to, downplay my guys because my guys know that I don't have to get on the show or get in the newspaper and talk about everybody on my team this year knows and has accepted their role. And so if they go and watch this tomorrow and I don't say their name, they're not going to say anything. They know that Carlton is going to gain all the attention that this team gets, but everybody on this team has bought into what we're trying to do, and that's get the letters and not the numbers, and that's the W. So I'm very happy with the guys that we have, and we still got a lot of games to go. But as of right now, the kids are playing well. But any given night, we're going to get everybody's best game as well too. So we're preparing ourselves for that. We got a tough one on Tuesday, then we get a little break. But we're ready. We're ready.
And one thing you're really fortunate to have, Coach. Your gym is the perfect size. It's not too big where it's hard to fill it up and get an environment. You feel like it's a great environment there because it's kind of set down. It's kind of dark out in the stands. Yeah. It's a really nice place for a basketball game. I wanted to say about Yorktown, Jake Cullum, sophomore guard, is playing great. I think he's further along than his older brother Ben, graduated last year. I think he's at Southwestern Virginia, or something like that. And Angie Maria, he's had some really big nights. He's old jab series that you used to see when I played. He just kind of, sneaks to the hole and gets the ball up. He's having a good year. Yeah, Coach Carlos had mentioned him on the opening podcast as a player to watch. Anyone else have any players in the Liberty they want to kind of shout out?
I mean, I think McLean's an outstanding team. Now they got a couple kids that are banged up right now. They're not the deepest group. I mean, he basically plays about 7 guys, and I know the Jeremy Fuchs kid, the wing guard, who's a really nice scorer, the left-hander, is hurt right now. And I understand they lost another kid to an injury one night this week. But I tell you who's a really nice player on that McLean team is the big kid, the Bell kid.
That number, I don't know names, so all my
Bell is the last name. There's a younger Bell.
Isaac Bell.
He's good, man. He's quick. He's a good athlete. He can score around the basket. He can step out and shoot. He's quick on the glass. He's a really nice player. They have a freshman kid who's really good. Seamus, it's like a Lithuanian named Kastufakis or something like that. Left-handed kid about 6'5" who can shoot and handle the ball. He's really good too for a freshman. They have a really nice team. And I think and the kid over at Langley can really play, the Bradshaw kid. I mean, I think people have known about him, but he's really good. And Marshall's got 3 guards.
He ain't no sleeper, man.
No, I know.
Bradshaw's not a sleeper.
He's wide awake.
Yeah. And Marshall obviously has the 3 senior guards that are all very good. I mean, that's a tough district. That team, I always say, beware Liberty District team that have a lot of seniors because they tend to be very, very good teams when they're kind of senior laden.
The most important player on the McLean team is Caff Eaton. He's probably their only point guard, and he wasn't even a point guard last year. He makes great decisions on the ball. He's about 6'1", 6'2", a good athlete. Not a pure point guard, but makes great decisions.
What's his number?
And I'm sorry, Coach.
What's his number?
He's number 15, I believe.
All right,
or 12.
I'm not like Doug Craig, man. I don't know how you remember all these damn people, Doug. I'm sorry.
Well, Sherman can name every player in every district. You can't beat Sherman. So.
Listen, Tony, I was going through my Rolodex before the meeting so I could sound intelligent.
That's smart. That's smart.
Well, what's the little point guard? I like the little point guard from Yorktown.
Yeah.
Little Jake.
Jake. Yeah, Jake. I like him.
He's going to be really good.
He's a transfer. I guess he went to a private school last year. I mean, again, his brother played starting point guard for the varsity, but I think Jake went to a private school somewhere. Tony, Coach Bentley, you may know.
Yeah, he went. I can't think it was one of those schools that had like 10
he went to Word of Life.
Word of Life, yeah, went there for
the schoolhouse in Hayes.
Yeah. He's doing good. He's going to be a really good player for Yorktown. He's a good player now, but once he gets some more experience, he's going to be really good. He's doing good for them.
Yeah,
calling that a school is a stretch.
That's why I said it's one of those schools with 10 people, and I don't know what it was. I just know he was at a school with like 10 people in the whole school.
Yeah. So, well, let's go to Concorde and Absentia for Coach Desmond. Obviously, South Lakes lost a big one to the Patriot. Lost pretty comprehensively. They were never really in the game, and then they lost. I know they lost out of state in a game where Jordan didn't play. But it looks like they're South Lakes is going to be tough. They're so deep. They're so tall. And they defend really well. They got Saul Vita, Brian Kenny, guards as well. I mean, they're very. We all know South Lakes. It's probably not too many surprises, but I think the surprising thing about the Concorde is Oakton has had some really nice performances. Madison has been pretty consistent after losing so many of their other starting players. And I'm losing the other Concorde members, but the whole district there's real. Westfield. Very, very tall, very talented, and very young. Coach Kevin Harris doing a great job as always. So what do you guys think about the Concorde? And also Centerville's been a surprise. They have the Davis guard, who's been playing really well. I think a sophomore guard. So anyone know anything about those teams?
That is the only league we have not played anybody.
You played with? Okay.
So
We played against Westfield, and again, I'm sorry I don't know no names, but they had two guards that really good. One kid had 3 points at halftime, and he finished the game with 32.
I think Isaiah
Brown.
Isaiah Brown. Yeah.
Number 5. I think number 5 and number 3. All I know is they can shoot the mess out of the ball, and the game got really close. We went in overtime because that kid went off, and the shot that would have beat us in regulation was from way past half court, and that still looked like it was going in. He just caught fire, and it's a great tape for him to send off to any college that's going to help him get a scholarship, because that kid really shot the ball really well for Westfield.
Yeah.
Kevin always does a great job with his teams. Kevin does a great job. He's going to have those guys rolling. I don't know anything else about the Concorde district except for South Lakes, of course. But
it's
not. I want to shout out Coach Carmichael and Chantilly. I don't. Besides, so I don't really know none of the players' names. Yeah. But they got a wing over there. I think it's a sophomore that's doing pretty well for them. And Chantilly has, they've been winning some games that they haven't been winning in the past. So, they're moving in the right direction. Hopefully, he continue to groom that crew that he has over there now. He told me even before the season that he was excited about this year's team and to see their progress, and they're doing a decent job. So I'll shout them out. I wish I knew the players' names. I don't know their names.
I mean, is anybody really surprised that Madison is competitive? I mean, I think Kevin Roller is one of the better, and he does a really good job. He's a really good coach, and their kids totally buy into their system and they execute it well, and they got some kids that can make shots. And I haven't seen, I saw Oakton on film very early in the season, but that's another team that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think quiet as kept, Dave Brooks is a really good coach over there at Oakton. I think, he maybe doesn't have quite as much talent as some of the other teams in that league, but they always seem like year in and year out, they're pretty competitive and they're kind of difficult to play against. He mixes his defenses a lot and, seems to get a lot out of his kids. They have a really good kid, Noah Toole, who's seems like he's putting up some pretty big numbers for them, who's a really good athlete. I think might be the quarterback on their football team too. So like they got, it's not surprising that those two teams have kind of found their way into competitive positions when I think probably people thought that maybe they were going to be a little down this year.
Yeah, it's a tough conference. It's surprisingly balanced this year. Besides South Lakes. Well, anyone else want to chime in on Concorde before we move to Prince William? Well, let's get. You want to, Coach Carlos?
I was about to tell you the name. Jordan Davenport was the wing that I was talking about.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of Chantilly's game yesterday. They won yesterday down in Osborne, didn't they? They played.
They actually lost to Freedom, right?
Yeah, they lost a close game. They had a lead, and Freedom came back late and won.
Yeah, Freedom came back.
Carlos Davenport is a Nova Cavs kid. He plays on that Nova Cavs kid with my kids. He's on that 16U team.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he can play.
Okay, well, let's go to Prince William. Obviously, we've talked to Prince William. In Prince William, it looks like the strength is in the eastern part of the county this year, other than Patriot. But Sherman, quickly, any surprises coming out of your district in terms of have teams emerged? I mean, I've seen Battlefield a few times this year. They're definitely young, but I don't know about young, inexperienced, but they're still dangerous on their night. Obviously, Freedom won yesterday against a pretty good Chantilly team. But other than that, are there any teams that are improving in the Cedar Run?
Wasn't that Freedom Woodbridge that beat that team Chantilly yesterday? Yeah, it wasn't Freedom South.
Oh, it was Woodbridge?
Yeah, I didn't think so. But you brought them up. I mean, I think that they're a good team. They lost I want to say a 2-point game to Battlefield. And then they turned around before that earlier, lost a 5-point game to Gainesville. So, they're right there as far as being a team that could do some stuff. I think that those three teams are going to kind of like fight it out and see who wins each game to figure out how they finish in the 2, 3, and 4 range. Obviously, the rest of our district with Osborne, OP, and Unity Reed isn't the strongest, but, they compete and and I'm sure that they'll, beat up on each other a little bit. Other side of the county wise, Potomac obviously has won some games and done some things and clearly can score the basketball with the point guard they got and the Bethea kid in the post. Mac obviously got his kids going a little bit, and I know they dropped a game or so that they probably felt like they shouldn't have, but have won some games that are pretty big. They beat Potomac, I want to say, last week and won that first matchup between those ones. Freedom is an interesting one because they lost the point guard for the rest of the season, most likely. But got the addition from the kid from Bishop Ireton. And
right? Cam?
I don't know what his name is, but I would really love for VHSL to explain the rule to me. Because I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. And it's not like it's a secret because there was an article in the newspaper. So but somehow he's eligible to play there, and that obviously helps them a lot having a kid like that come in. But I know that Colgan played a close one with Potomac the other day. Hilton played a close one with Forest Park. So I haven't really seen those teams, but I didn't think that they were very good. But clearly they competed and were able to play close games with the top teams in the district. So I think Woodbridge got a win against Osborne at that event yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of teams that got some guys that can play a little bit, but it's a little bit more top heavy in our region, I want to say, this year than years past. With ourselves, Potomac, Forest Park, and then you kind of go from there because I don't think any of the Stafford ones are really going to push to compete for that.
Coach, how good is Potomac? Is this a team that can compete with the top teams in the state? How good do you think they are?
I mean, you won't really know until you see them play it. So, when you can score the basketball, that always helps. And you have a guard that can go for 25 to 30 on any given night, that'll help. So, but I know they could score the basketball last year. So I can't really gauge it because I haven't really got a chance to sit and watch and we haven't played them. So, but you got to think that Anthony Mill's going to have his guys prepared to be able to compete and do well and push to be into the season, late into the season.
Well, it's nice to see Potomac back being extremely competitive again. It's great, such a great program, and I'm sure you like to see them do well, as long as they're not playing, playing Patriot. How about the rest of you guys? If you guys got any opinions about Prince William, either Cedar Run or is it the Commonwealth? The other, or it's the Cardinal?
Cedar Run, Cardinal, and then the Commonwealth down Stafford.
Yep. Yeah.
I saw Woodbridge play yesterday. He got like a sophomore point guard, Casey Carr Jones, a lefty, quick as he's like what's my man from the Kings? He reminds me of him a little bit. Very quick. Like you can tell that like he's been taught the right way. Like he's gonna be a good guard in the future for sure. I like him, and then I like number 11 from Forest Park. I have no idea what his name is, but every time I watch him play, he does some good things out there for them. And DK Moore is a name that pretty much everybody knows, but the number 11 kid for Forest Park is pretty good too.
Yeah. I was actually impressed with Fairfax Christian. They got a lot of boys in that team that can play.
Oh, Fairfax Christian got a good team.
Number 11 is Roman Hendricks. We played Forest Park.
Roman Hendricks.
I thought he was a difference maker for them. Very athletic. Looks like he's about 6'4". I was impressed with him. The DK Moore kid is pretty good. I got a question about it's like a couple teams in your region that score a ton, like just a ton. Then there's a bunch of teams that don't really score a lot of points. And I didn't know if it's just the defensive. I haven't seen a bunch of those teams play defensively. Or are they just trying to hold the ball or what? I didn't know that.
Who are we talking about?
Your region, you guys, Forest Park, Potomac, y'all put up lots of points. Nobody else really puts up a lot of points. And I didn't know.
I mean, that just goes with it being like teams are being down. They don't really have the offensive firepower to put up a whole lot. I talked about, the purple guys on our side. They just don't have that type of player where they can just go get baskets and just score it. So it's one of those things that you just don't have explosive basketball teams being able to score it. But you know, they got some guys that can make some shots and make some things difficult for you if you're not focused, ready to play.
I've seen Gainesville a number of times. Their guard, everybody talks about their guard really well. I like they got a forward, Preston White, who is about 6'5", I think he's really athletic. I think he's going to be a really good player for them. That's going to be hard to stop come playoff time. I think he's only a junior.
I like him too. Yeah, he's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's he's pretty good. I think the thing with him is when he's motivated to play, he does pretty well. So you know, and they got some young kids that are pretty decent. So it'll be interesting, definitely, when it comes to district time and things of that nature.
How do you guys determine your region? Do you just the last place team doesn't get in, or are you guys playing in to get sick? You know what? I take that back. I don't know if you guys are even changing your region. We aren't having a 16-team region tournament. We're only having a 12. So I wonder if anybody else doing that.
We're an 18 region tournament. So I'm pretty sure, but everything always seems to change and they don't tell us. I'm pretty sure it's 3 from our district, 3 from Cardinal, and 2 from Commonwealth is how it's going to be. So you take the top 3 from R2 and then the top 2 from down there, and then you go from there.
Do you take the top 3 regular season teams or
regular season is just regular season is the only one that's guaranteed is the champ of the regular season. So that's why I'm saying I don't know how they're going to figure out who the third one is. I feel like they have to do the third place game, but every time I ask questions, they don't really have answers for me until it gets closer to it. So maybe I'm just not paying attention until it gets closer to it. Maybe because I don't ever plan on being in that game, so I don't really care what happens. Yeah. It might be a combination of all of them. So I think that our district's only taking the top 4 for the district tournament this year, where in years past, it's been an all-in district tournament. So, you know, they don't really ever tell us the rhyme or the reason for the decisions that they make or ask us our opinions. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys can understand that.
Hey, if they changed the brackets for the state, like at the football, they broke it up so it wasn't 6C and D, which is the Northern versus Occoquan. Are they doing the same thing for basketball?
I heard they are. Did anybody confirm that?
I mean, I heard Occoquan goes down to 757, and then y'all play whatever y'all region is plays the South Lakes now.
Yeah.
That's in the quarterfinal?
I don't know. But that's what I heard. That's what the thing was, though.
Yeah, I think it'd be the quarterfinal.
So it'd be the loser of that if you're the winner of it.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, looking from the outside, it would seem like in Sherm's region, I mean, I would be pretty surprised if it wasn't 2 of the 3 of Potomac, Forest Park, and Patriot, right? Like, those 3 teams seem like they've separated themselves a little bit. Not that there aren't some other teams that are quality teams. It's just those 3 kind of seem like they're the top, and it would be a kind of a surprise if 2 of those 3 weren't the ones that came out. I don't know anything about the Stafford teams. There could be some good teams down there. I honestly don't know.
No, it's all right. Don't even worry about it.
We played North Stafford. Are they in you guys's are they part of the teams that would go into your region?
I think they are. I honestly I can't tell you. Sure, I know that sounds bad as Los. I know it's Forge. I know that it's Mountain View.
Massaponics?
No, they're not.
I think they're 5A.
They're 5A now. I couldn't remember if it's Brook Point and North Stafford. The Stafford as well, like all those schools now. I'm pretty sure all those schools are now Division 6. And like I said, once I saw that Forge wasn't that great, I just kind of stopped paying attention.
Yeah.
They're going to get mad, but I don't care.
Yeah. You never get people mad.
I mean, people get mad at the truth, so it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I like when the Phoebus football coach, the assistant coach Anthony, was trying to start it about the blowout. So I'm like, I mean, that was a funny post. So
yeah, I mean it's funny, but I know outside looking in, they look terrible. But I mean, what you want me to do? We set our guys a minute into the third quarter. I can't just hand you the ball and tell you to go score, and it's not my job to make you feel better about being bad.
So, well, guys, I did want to ask you one question. Maybe we can end on this. But if you're on Twitter, and I'm not a big Twitter guy, but I do some basketball Twitter because that's where you post stuff. And there's so many basketball philosophers on Twitter, like AAU, and these people that give all this advice about development and stuff. How much do you think on Twitter can you believe from these coaches that are always philosophizing on Twitter? What percentage would you guys give in terms of how serious the advice is on Twitter?
1%.
You talking about a certain individual. If I'm thinking about it,
well, I might have one. I may have one in mind, but he's not by himself. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Carlos, you said 1%.
1.
I think it's higher than 1. I just think a lot of people that are commenting don't understand the big picture and how everything works and how the training of an individual. I mean, most guys, or I don't say guys, most people that are posting are so they're so connected to one player or two players, and like as coaches, we can't do that. We have a whole program. We have 40 something kids to worry about and try to like develop our 8th graders and 9th graders and all that stuff. And so the people that are posting, they don't know the process. They're just, it's good clickbait. It's good. Sometimes it's good words, but like then when you look into the people, like there's a certain individual I know that posts about stuff and his children or whatever, and how great of a developer of talent, this person is, and is like putting down high school coaches and what high school coaches are doing. But, the same person, if people dove into it, has had like 3-4 different jobs at different schools and hasn't developed another person outside his own child. So, how much, credit is there really to that? So, but then there's also some people that are credible, absolutely credible, coach for a long time, put some stuff on there. So I think it's higher than 1%, but I think it's a lot less than 100.
Hey, I will say, I mean, some of the stuff that, and I'm gonna say his name, some of the stuff that Dennis Marshall be saying, it be good and it has some validity to it. Like it does be good. And sometimes, he just wants to get his thoughts across before he does whatever he does for the day. It's like he wakes up, got something to say. And like I said, man, some of the stuff, he do have some validity to it, and he do have some good advice on certain things. Sometimes it be a little bit too much, but it is what it is.
Ain't no sometimes.
But he do be having like some things he be saying definitely is true.
I mean, I'm glad that you read all that to get to the few times that it makes sense.
The stuff that go viral is the ones, those are the things that, yeah.
You mean like when he called the NBA racist?
Hey.
I don't think we should give a lot of credit to people that ain't on this podcast. Use the names of people on this podcast.
So, well, I did want also to ask you guys, since I got back into the game, I have been trying to
chime in on all this stuff real quick.
Well, yeah, sure.
Isn't this like one of the biggest problems? I don't know. Like I have social media. I post some things here and there. Most of the time it involves my kids. It seems to me that it's not just the coaching profession. It's not just basketball, but it's in pretty much every walk of life. There's a lot of self-proclaimed experts on social media who like to tell other people how to live and what's the successful way to be. I find a lot of people think an awful lot about what they do every day and think that their version of what's right and what's wrong is applicable to everybody else in every walk of life. And what would I know about what it's like to be Tony Bentley? And why would I tell Tony Bentley how to run his team or run his program? He's been doing this for 22 years. He's been pretty successful. Seems like whatever he does works for himself. I think people talk too much and listen not enough. I think generally online, I think the biggest problem with online is any little thought that comes into your head, people post it.
Absolutely.
And they think that there's they have some sort of Svengali thought and insight into life that, maybe not so much. Maybe keep some thoughts to yourself once in a while and try to learn, because I think nobody has all the right answers. No coach, no trainer, no AAU coach. Nobody knows everything about this game. That is for sure. And I can tell you this right now, like every time I talk to another coach, I'm trying to pick up something from them because everybody on here knows more than I know. So, I think I think the biggest problem with people when they go online and they make these big proclamations is they don't their version of the truth isn't necessarily always applicable for everyone else.
100%. And then if someone doesn't agree with what you say, it doesn't mean that they hate you. Just means I have a different opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, one last thing I was going to ask you guys. Since I got back in the game, I have been trying to follow some of the kids when they get to college and see how they do, and I have been kind of surprised that there are not a lot of opportunities for kids to play the first and second years in college, and players that are playing really well, public and private in the area, DC, the DMV, they're having a hard time at the college level. Do you think this is going to take care of itself when the COVID year is over and the average age of the players comes down a little bit? Or you think this is just because of the transfer portal, teams are getting more and more comfortable with filling out the roster with more experienced players, and they're going to start, it's going to be tougher from now on for high school kids to get the first place to start. And obviously, the players got to come from somewhere, so they're eventually going to get their chance if they hang in there. But anyway, what do you guys think is the long-term prognosis for high school players?
I don't actually remember when it was easy for freshmen to get play.
That's what I was going to say, Dave. Go ahead. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always been a challenge for freshmen coming out of high school to get on and play and get in a college game. I mean, no matter, even 30 years ago, I mean, you had guys that were 22 and 23-year-olds as seniors, and then getting on the court with them is tough. I think for some reason, families and parents have some, like, I don't know where they got it from, but like, oh, my kid was a star in high school, was a senior, and so now all of a sudden he's got to play, and if he's not playing, I'm out. Or I don't really get where that's coming from. I think it is harder for our kids to get on a roster. I think that is harder because of the idea that the college coaches can go get kids out the portal and they can get, I think that is harder, but I don't think it's any harder once that kid gets on a team, on a roster, that he gets on the court. I think that's the same as it has always been. It's going to be the physicality of the game, the speed of the game, the experience of guys you're playing against. No matter how many high school games you play, it's a small few that are really, really ready for that that quick 5 months later transformation. So, I think it's a little misconception, a little bit.
Right. I agree with it. That was exactly where I was going to go with that. I think it's hard in general for freshmen to get on the court. I think that people have skewed their view about, that, and it's trickled down now to middle schoolers coming into high school, that people think that when you're young, you're supposed to be playing and getting all these opportunities, where it just doesn't work that way. The special ones are the ones that get those opportunities and play a whole lot. And one thing that kids figure out once they get to that level is that the most consistent kids play all the time. And just because you have a great upside, if you're only good for a game and bad for 4, you're not going to play very much. So, and they don't understand that it starts with your practice habits and doing those things and figuring those sorts of things out. The kids you see in getting those opportunities and playing are the type of kids that come in and do the work regardless of what the type of accolades or pats on the back they're going to get. It's not shocking to me to see Greg Jones playing a good amount or when he's at American, because he's the type of guy that's able to fit in and just play his role, and it's not about him. And he had practice doing that with his AAU team outside of playing for Los. Caden Bates is right now is the kid that we have in college that's actually in the rotation at his school, because
Mary Washington.
Yeah, Caden had to understand, he understands how to play his role and to play it at a very high rate. Our other 2 guys are trying to figure it out. And it's just hard for incoming freshmen to know that. And with just the environment we've been in, and just everybody thinks that young guys are supposed to come in and play and contribute right away. Like I said, it's hard for them to get there because of the portal and the COVID stuff. But the playing, once they get there, I don't think that's changed from what it's always been.
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in here?
I just think also, like, the parents I don't think the parents realize, what it takes at that next level too. Like, they think because they were all region this, all state that they're going to come in as freshmen and get 20 minutes a game and and be able to do the type of things that they did in high school when they're starting all the way over, and they gotta earn that position again. And and I've seen it firsthand even this past season with one of our players who ended up leaving early because they didn't like the situation that they were in. So it's just parents gotta understand what it takes, and that people are starting over, and they gotta earn those minutes, and nothing's gonna be given to those guys. Those coaches are they get paid to do what they do. So that they trying to put the best product out there that they possibly can. So I just think that parents gotta take a backseat a little bit when it comes to those things and let those kids figure it out.
Yeah, I think at the next level, parents got to take a complete back seat. I know college coach want to hear from no parent ever, and as soon as you
1,000%, yeah,
1,000%. Like they're out of there. And I think what I don't say we, those six of us on here, but like a lot of coaches, we highlight the guys that we got into school and that we got them there, right? And they're in school, but often I think we stop talking about their timeline. And how many of those guys, it takes a couple of years before they really start impacting their team, but they're still on the team. Like they're there, they're practicing every day. They might only be getting 8 minutes a game. They might have a couple of DNPs during their first 2 years, coaching decisions, and then they start to play. And so since we don't really talk about that, I think a lot of kids expect that once this kid that we've been highlighting as a senior and that's going off to school, they just assume that kid is playing all the time. They stop tracking, his stats or whatever, and then they don't think about him anymore. And they just forget like the majority. I mean, I don't know the percentage, but I'd say 85% of the kids, that's their freshman, sophomore story. They struggle, play a little bit here and there, and then they get into the rotation as a junior and senior and keep it going. That small percentage that go, the Greg Jones, the small percentage of guys that goes in there and gets in the Division I rotation, right away as a freshman, or in Division II or Division III. Like I know some guys in Division III that went to a squad that's got like 2 or 3 all-state guys on their team. Like how you gonna come in as a freshman, as a 13th grader, and beat some kid out that's 23 years old that's got an extra year? So I wish that more parents would hear the real narrative of the real player than just the couple of kids that we highlight that are really stars and studs and go in and make some noise.
I think anytime you go up a level, high school to college, middle school to high school, it's a tremendous adjustment. And you're competing now for the first time against guys significantly older than you. I think one of the things that I'm seeing, I think, because so many of the kids, even the top kids, right, they play AAU starting in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, but they're playing against kids their own age all the time. And then when they get to 9th grade, they're playing against a 14-year-old freshman is playing against an 18-year-old senior. And that's a significant difference in experience and maturity and strength and body. And then it's the same thing you can have a really talented kid, 18-year-old, he goes off to college. He's playing against a grown man who's 22 years old, who's been in a college weight room for 3 years. That's a significant difference. Not to mention all the practices and games that 22-year-old college senior has had. That's, I think everybody on here runs a good program. But I don't think any one of our practices is as competitive as, Mary Washington's practice, because let's be honest, Mary Washington has the 2 best players on each one of our team. That's their roster. So they're not playing against the 13th guy on a high school roster in practice. They're playing against the first guy on a high school roster in practice every day. So it's a significant jump. And I think the generation of parents and kids, they want everything right away. Nobody wants to like really work for it and earn it. And they want to just get there and, well, I'm here, hand it to me. I'm a starter, right? I've always been a starter. Well, so is everyone else on this college roster. Was a starter every year in high school. Every one of them were sophomores playing on the varsity or freshmen playing on the varsity. Every single one of them. Whether you're at Division I, Division II, or Division III, those are the best of the best. And, you got to start from the bottom and earn your way back in again. And I just think, because of the nature of the way it is now, with them being able to bounce from team to team to team in youth, they get, if they don't get the shots they want on this team, they switch to another team down the road. And then if they don't like that team, they go to another team next year. And they find a situation that they can be the star in. But, sometimes you got to be a star in your role. And not everybody's going to be a star at the next level, even if they were a star at the high school level.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get all my kids, hey, tough that stuff out, man. Whatever they going through right now, tough it out. It's just gonna make them better at the end of the day, instead of just. I hate all the port. If it has to happen, it has to happen. But the whole portal stuff, you talking about at least the kids that I have. I have Division II, Division III. I only have one Division I player playing right at this specific moment, and the rest of those guys are playing Division II, Division III, and they got to tough those things out and figure it out.
Yeah.
And parents got to, again, take a back, like how you said, take a back seat because they don't want to hear from you.
Yeah. Even at the JUCO level. I mean, I got a
JUCO,
I got D2, I got a couple D3s, I got JUCO kids out right now. Yeah, I mean, JUCO, you got even D3, I mean, you got 19 kids in the team. I went and watched American play Hood college because my kid plays Division III for Hood, and I got the chance to see a couple of our guys, Gibraltar and Greg in the area. And yeah, Hood had 18 kids on the team. I think Kai Robinson's brother's on the team, and he didn't get into late in the game, and he could play. Right. He could play. So, yeah, hopefully people hear this and realize, like, it doesn't matter where you go. If you go to prep school, they got 20 kids on the team. You go to JUCO. I mean, everybody's kicking, scratching, and fighting to try to get some minutes. So, and there's not minutes for everybody. So, it's a shame. It's a shame when some people leave and complain to the coaches at the next level that they're not getting playing time.
There's just so many good players, even in this, like, just this area. I mean, every team in this area, you go over to Maryland and play Prince George's County, they all have 2 or 3 guys that are flat out can play. Like, there's just so many good players. And then, when you get to the college level, you're talking about they recruiting from even the Division III schools, right? In this area, they're recruiting from New York to Atlanta, up and down 95. And they're getting the 2 best players out of every high school gym. Like, that's how good you gotta be. There's no joke. There's there's nowhere to hide at the next level. Just like the average middle school kid coming into the high school, coming into a competitive 6A high school, like, there's very few freshmen. I mean, how many freshmen in the area right now are really contributing? There's probably maybe 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about how many good middle school players there are, that go to high school every year. Most of them are playing on the freshman and JV. And in college, there is no freshman JV. So they all get put right up with the older kids.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to develop them for a year or 2.
Yeah. So, well, look, guys, this has been great, man. I just I appreciate you getting together. It's been a while. It's been another great season. I feel like it's just flying by, but you're the guys doing the heavy lifting. Maybe it's when you're on the ground, it doesn't go by so fast, and you have to actually win these games and deal with parents, deal with try to get the best out of these kids. Maybe it doesn't go as fast, but from my point of view, it's going fast. So anyway, continue good luck as we move through our districts. Hopefully we can get together before the postseason. But it looks like you guys are all in the mix as you always are, and hopefully we can continue to as I say, upward and onward.
Yes,
for
sir.
sure. Yeah, good luck to everybody for the rest of the way, man.
Thanks for having me on again, Julian.
Appreciate it, Julian.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having us on.
Appreciate it. Hey, all y'all come check out this game on Saturday.
Yeah. If you can't come, put it on the TV. So
yeah.
Who's refereeing the game?
I'm sure. I guess it's Cardinal.
What game y'all talking about?
Here he goes.
Now I got a game on Tuesday.
I'm just playing. It's me and Los play each other on TV on Saturday.
That's at the South Lakes. The thing at South Lakes, right?
Yeah. And they play Largo.
TV game's gonna be on Monumental Sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Wizard.
Yeah.
And we also 9 times out of 10 we're gonna play with the shot clock too. So it might be the first time 2 Virginia public schools get to play with the shot clock. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
VHSL, pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
They won't need it. They won't need it in this game. So
we're not gonna need it.
No, we're not. We're not.
Yeah. So. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, look, I'll see you guys out there Saturday. I'll definitely be there. But the rest of you guys, I'll see you along the rest of the season, the road to the rest of the season.
Hey,
right.
Durham just texted, what time is the Zoom call?
What's that?
Durham just texted, what time is the Zoom call?
He knew it was 8 o'clock.
5 minutes. Tell him it's in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Durham is funny.
Tell him 10 o'clock.
He wanted to come on and talk about the tournament, but I guess
man,
I'll get him next time.
Yeah. I appreciate y'all, man. We'll see y'all soon.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay. Take care.